8 frustrating video game levels. Hey guys, Culture here. Today we'll be looking at 8 frustrating video game levels. More specifically, we'll discuss why exactly these levels are so infuriating and the details that add insult to injury. I remember playing these games and having that moment of, is it just that I'm not good enough? Maybe I need more practice or a different approach. Then when I got older and replayed these games, I realized, nope, this part of the game just sucks. Number 1. Super Mario 64 isn't that difficult of a game really. I'd say you can breeze through a 100% completion run and get 120 stars as long as you have the patience to wait on flying carpets and don't stupidly enter the slide too early on Tall Mountain, thus preventing you from getting the 100 coin star. But there's one star that consistently gives me trouble called Wing Mario Over the Rainbow. This star is found in Peach's Castle just off of the lobby for Tick-Tock Clock and Rainbow Ride, and requires you to collect 8 red coins from a collection of small cloud platforms. To get from cloud to cloud, you'll need to use the wing cap, a mechanic that I absolutely hate controlling. Here's why. First off, to start flying you need to perform a triple jump. The cloud's edge isn't clearly defined though, so I'd often end up triple jumping up to the edge of some smaller clouds and accidentally falling right off. Even once you're flying, it's no piece of cake. Swooping down to land on the clouds gives you a sudden burst of speed and loss of control, which can also cause you to plummet down. And just to hit you when you're down, the game plops you into the lake outside the castle if you fall, meaning you have to painstakingly walk Mario back up to the top floor of Peach's Castle to try again. I usually end up leaving this star till last as the real final boss of the game. Number 2. Pokemon Stadium 2 is a super fun game. Personally, I used to play the minigames more than the actual battle mode, but there was one thing that drove me to try my hand at regular battles: the Gym Leader Castle. At first it was pretty easy. The ability to pick any Pokemon up to and including Gen 2 meant you could pretty much win any battle with the right type matchups. But my progress was suddenly stalled when I came up against the unexpected interlopers, Team Rocket. In the regular games, these guys are pushovers, but here they have surprisingly strong Pokemon, and each of the 4 Team Rocket members comes with their own strategy. The first member tries to use Explosion to take you down quickly, making it a test of endurance. The second member tries to poison and outlast you, leading to a slower battle. The third member is a total jerk because all their Pokemon use Frustration, a move that becomes more powerful the more the Pokemon dislikes their trainer. I'm not sure if it works like that in Pokemon Stadium 2, but in any case, it's just plain mean. The fourth grunt has a lot of diversity and strong Pokemon. The worst part is you have to beat all 4 in a row, lose on the last member and you'll have to slog through the other 3 all over again. Oh, and you can also verse an even harder version of these Team Rocket goons if you beat the whole Gym Leader Castle. Don't even get me started on how tough it is the second time around. My advice, just stick to the minigames. Number 3. Donkey Kong 64 is the mother of all collectathons with an array of collectibles to obtain. The main collectibles are the golden bananas, of which there are 201 in the game. This game is full of tricky bananas, like the Owl's Ring game in Fungi Forest, a challenge made infuriatingly hard by the crappy flying controls of Diddy's jetpack, and beating the original Donkey Kong game in its entirety with just 1 life. Most of these bananas are scattered around the game world, but some of them are hidden in bonus barrels, mini-games which you have to beat to collect the prized golden banana within. And one of these mini-games is by far the most frustrating challenge in the game: Beaver Bother. In Beaver Bother, you play as a claptrap that has to herd naughties into a hole, a beaver-like enemy. You can press the B button to scare them away from you, but this mechanic sounds far simpler than it really is. There seems to be some kind of weird hit detection on the hole in the middle, where half the times the naughties will just run into an invisible wall and refuse to fall down. Barking at them won't do much in these cases, they just sprint at the invisible wall and waste time. Oh, did I mention the time limit? In Frantic Factory, you have 60 seconds to herd 12 naughties, and in Creepy Castle, when you repeat the minigame, you have to herd 15 of these guys. That's 1 every 4 seconds on average. And, just when you think you finally lucked into appeasing the RNG gods and managed to finish the game, you have to do it all over again in Creepy Castle. Once with Lanky Kong, and once with Chunky Kong. That's 3 times total. That means that 1.5% of the game's bananas are locked behind this game. If you're anything like me, you'll end up jumping into the hole in the middle with your claptrap just to end the suffering. Number 4. Bomberman 64 continued the trend of 2D games trying to make the jump to 3D, each game with varying levels of success. Rather than its top-down predecessors, Bomberman 64 takes on a 3D adventure mode for its single player, with fixed camera perspectives. For some reason I always found this game tough, probably because I collect too many fire power-ups, increasing the blast radius until I kept blowing myself up. I also could never get a handle on the more advanced techniques like bomb bridging, a skill that's essential for collecting gold cards and beating the game. But none of that explains why I find the first level of the 5th stage of the game so annoying. The level Go for Broke in the Black Fortress is essentially a highway into Altair's lair, the primary villain of the game. As such, you'll find plenty of cars and trucks making their way down the road and crushing Bomberman in their path. The slow movement of Bomberman makes dodging cars difficult to begin with, but when they suddenly spawn from off screen in the exact direction you need to go, they become nigh impossible to avoid. You can take the skywalks overhead if you prefer, but then you'll need to contend with the enemies up above, who can be equally annoying to deal with in such a confined space. I did recently learn that you can just use bombs to cross the gaps in the road, but I usually end up mistiming it and blowing myself up. Number 5. Castlevania 64 isn't exactly everyone's favourite Castlevania game, or should I say anyone's favourite Castlevania game. It still holds a special place in my heart though, because it used to scare the hell out of me as a kid. The hedge maze section with the crazed chainsaw-wielding maniac would make my breath grow shallow as I approached it, not to mention that chilling violin music on the opening screen. But let's be honest, the game has a lot of flaws. The boring and poorly explained explosive section, the fact that you can get halfway through the game on easy difficulty before being told you need to play on normal difficulty to play the whole game, and, of course, the horrible camera and movement controls. The underground waterway level best showcases the flaws of this game, with numerous hazards that'll push you to your limit. You'll encounter tight platforming sections with small ledges and narrow paths to traverse, right above giant pools of instant death poison water. This wouldn't be an issue if you had the control of a Mario game, but instead your character has awkward movement, imprecise jumps, and the camera refuses to comply. There's also lizard enemies that pop out of the water and poison you, gradually draining your health unless you happen to have stocked up on cure ampules. The most frustrating part though has to be the floors that crumble away when you step on them, forcing you to react suddenly and often dying by jumping into a pit on the other side. I suggest you just pick Reinhardt instead of Carrie and do the caves level. Trust me. Number 6. Diddy Kong Racing is, in my opinion, better than Mario Kart 64. The story mode is a great single-player experience to beat out the usual Grand Prix mode of other racing games. The visuals, character design, and soundtrack all combine to give the game an easygoing, fun feeling. But of course the game has its intense moments too, like the Whiz-Pig race and accompanying soundtrack giving the perfect fast-paced showdown feeling. The controls may take a little bit of getting used to, but what else can you expect from a Nintendo 64 game? Perhaps the greatest test of how well you can control your vehicle is the boss levels. These levels pit you against giant animals that race you to the end of a course, all the while dodging stage obstacles and the bosses themselves. My vote for the most frustrating boss definitely has to go to Bubbler the Octopus. As you race around his island habitat, you have to dodge logs and maneuver through tunnels in the hardest vehicle type to control, the hovercraft. Everything just feels so loose and floaty when trying to steer the hovercraft, making for a difficult race. This is compounded by Bubbler's ability to leave bubbles in his wake. Hitting one of these stops you in your tracks for a couple of seconds, leading you to mash the accelerate button and curse at the game. Plus, he just has the most annoying voice as well, all gurgly and arrogant. Wow, I hate this guy. Number 7. Conker's Bad Fur Day is rife with lewd humor and references to pop culture, qualities that definitely drew me to the game. What I didn't realize until later is just how much of a mixed bag the actual gameplay is. I guess you'd call it an adventure game because of all the different places you travel to, and the gameplay changes to suit the theme or action of the new setting. As Birdie says,
"It means context sensitive. It's sensitive to context."
As such, the final third of the game turns into something of a third-person shooter, with Conker using a shotgun, a crossbow, Uzis, mounted machine guns, and even a bazooka. The first chapter we see this in, Spooky, has Conker fighting off zombies with his shotgun whilst trying to escape the mansion of his great-great-great-great-grandfather, Count Bacula. Everything about this section is infuriating. Jumping between platforms with awful camera angles, zombies ambushing you around corners, walking over thin planks with imprecise controls, and trying to shoot down bats with loose aiming. The worst part is you have to grab 3 keys and carry them to the front door. While carrying the keys, you can't use your gun, so you better hope you cleared your path beforehand. This section also drags on way too long, and if you die, you have to start all over again. By the time you've finally beaten this part of the game, you'll be sick of the sound of the mansion creaking, creepy children's laughter, and ominous music. Number 8. Banjo-Kazooie is one of my favourite games of all time. The controls are fluid, the music is beautiful, the environments are perfectly crafted, and the characters are full of personality. I've played through this game multiple times because I love it so much. My favourite levels are Mad Monster Mansion and Click Clock Wood because of their music and atmosphere. But wedged between them is the level I dread most when it comes to picking Banjo and Kazooie up again. Rusty Bucket Bay. Now I get that this is a late level in the game, so it's supposed to be difficult, but some parts of this level are just ridiculous. The instant death acid pool and suffocating water make maneuvering around the stage frustrating, but by far the most difficult part of this stage should be well known to anyone who's played the game before: the engine room. Inside the hull of the ship is a series of mechanisms designed to throw Banjo and Kazooie into the bottomless pit below. These include rotating pathways, spinning cogs, and whirring fan blades. You can get one Jiggy by simply crossing the paths, but the second Jiggy is much more frustrating. You have to hit 2 switches on the far end of the engine room, then race back along the moving mechanisms, climb to the outside of the ship, and run towards the stern of the ship where the propellers have stopped moving. If you swim down and grab the Jiggy before time runs out, you'll have gotten the hardest Jiggy in the game. Now that's annoying, but the more frustrating part of the engine room to me is that it contains 12 notes in the level. You need to collect all 100 notes in the level without dying if you want to 100% complete the game. The best strategy is to beeline for the engine room and get it over and done with before even thinking about getting the other notes, but still, it's just so frustrating. You know, now I think about it, all the games on this list are Nintendo 64 games, probably because the controller is so unwieldy and developers were still getting used to movement in a 3D space, leading to annoying platforming. I think frustration arises when you fail because of factors outside of your control, making your loss feel unfair or unjustified. Or maybe I'm just whinging because I'm not good enough at the games on this list. What games get you guys frustrated and why? Let us know in the comments below and we'll see you next week. If you enjoy what we do here at Culture Crash, please consider supporting the show via our Patreon, where we have a bunch of awesome rewards, or by checking out our online store. All links are in the description below.
Follow Culture Crash on social media! Like and subscribe for more!